right, welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Friday to you and yours. We got a little overcast, rainy Friday here in Nashville, Tennessee. I hope it's bright and sunny wherever you're at. I hope you're in the right mood for a terrific episode of Fearless. Coach JB will be here as he is virtually every Friday. We're 48 hours? Or I'd have to do the math. Someone help me with the math. How many hours are we away from Shedeur Palooza? But we got that to look forward to this weekend. Shedeur Sanders joining us in a amazing weekend of football with Shedeur entering the starting lineup. And last night, we had some interesting football. The Buffalo Bills got knocked off by the Houston Texans. We have that to talk about. We're hoping to get back into the Jalen Hurts conversation. We've invited Seth Joyner onto the program. He's been a part of that story, the Jalen Hurts story. He broke some news about some consternation and upheaval within the Eagles organization. Hopefully at some point today, bring that to me, Tiff, or just set it right here in front of me. But hopefully at some point today, we'll get Seth Joyner and we'll go a little bit deeper on what's going on with Jalen Hurts. We got my Fearless 5 picks. I struggled last week again, but I promise you I'm going to get red hot here in a second. Stephen A. Smith has made a fool of himself once again, and I'll have a lot to say about that. Am I forgetting it? Obviously, I've already referenced Shedeur. I got some WNBA news that we will get into. So an awesome episode of Fearless just around the corner. Let's be patient and let's remember what we need to do. There's two things I'm going to ask you to do off the top. They're both easy. The first one costs you nothing. If you're listening over Apple, hit that 5-star rating. Help us fight the algorithm. It's how we grow the show over Apple and wherever podcasts are played. So hit that 5-star rating. If you really want to be down and be a supporter, and if you really understand why this show is different, and it can only be different and can only be honest because if you're willing to step up and support me and the Blaze and the entire Fearless mission. The reason why this is the most honest sports talk show in America is because we operate independently and we need to lean into you all. And that leaning into you all means you guys going to fearlessmission.com and becoming a subscriber. It's important. If you wonder why everything else in the media sounds compromised or afraid, fearful, dishonest, it's because that's required. And in order for me to operate independently, I need the support of you. The Blaze needs the support of you. That's why I need you to go to fearlessmission.com. You can get $20 off. Use the promo code Fearless. You can get $20 off your subscription and become an annual subscriber. That's the best thing you could do for me and this show. And so that you're protected and you have a place where you can go and like, man, I'm going to hear the honest truth. Whitlock may not be 100% right, but he's going to tell me 100% what he authentically believes. Not last thing, but the next thing before I get into today's main topic is Flying A Spirits. No, I'm sorry. Flying A Spirits is a sponsor today, but I want to start with the Center for Academic Faithfulness and Flourishing. This is a way for those of you that have a Christian faith and you want all the information on, hey, where can I place my child in a Christian environment when they graduate high school? Where can I send them off to college to a school that won't violate my biblical Christian worldview? Well, the Center for Academic Faithfulness and Flourishing has established a Christian college guide, christiancollegeguide.com. Everyone knows that college is a major investment, so it's really important to do your research. You want to find a school that shares your values, but who has time to dig through all those college websites? I don't, you don't. Well, today, I've got great news for you. There's a free, easy-to-use resource called christiancollegeguide.com. This online directory of more than 250 Christian colleges and universities is a one-stop shop. christiancollegeguide.com lists all the basics such as acceptance rates, tuition costs, academic majors. But here's what makes this resource truly special. christiancollegeguide.com will show you the school's faith commitments, its campus policies, its spiritual life, all the info that will help you find a college you can trust. This is the definitive guide to Christian higher education, and it's completely free. So if you're someone you know, if you or someone you know is considering college, go to christiancollegeguide.com, create a free user profile, and get started today. That's christiancollegeguide.com. All right, let's get into today's show. The Buffalo Bills last night fell to 7-4. They were shocked last night by the Houston Texans and Davis Mills, some third-round quarterback from a few years ago that, had a decent college career, has been with Houston for 4 or 5 years, and now from out of nowhere, with C.J. Stroud injured, Davis Mills has rattled off 3 straight wins, and the Houston Texans are now 6-5, just one game behind the 7-4 Buffalo Bills. This is important because, particularly in the AFC, we could be heading towards a playoff scenario where there's no Josh Allen, no Patrick Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow. This made me think about used to be my favorite television network, HBO. And HBO had a commercial. It's not TV, it's HBO. And without Josh Allen, without Patrick Mahomes, without Lamar Jackson, without Joe Burrow, we're headed towards it's not football, it's the NFL. And that brand getting demolished. Because without Patrick Mahomes, without Lamar Jackson, without Joe Burrow, without Josh Allen, that's like HBO losing The Sopranos, The Wire, Game of Thrones, and of course, my favorite that irritates you all, Sex and the City. If you don't have those 4 brands, it's not HBO. It's just regular television. And sounds crazy, but let me walk you through each one of these 4 situations. I'll start with Josh Allen and Buffalo. They're in the playoffs right now. And it's going to be difficult for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to miss the playoffs, but it could happen. They're 7-4. They trail the Patriots, who are 9-2 within their division. They still have probably 2 guaranteed victories, or you would think guaranteed victories. You would have thought last night would be a guaranteed victory in my view, but they play the Browns and the Jets. So it's kind of difficult to see Buffalo not getting to 9-8. But they also have to play Pittsburgh, Cincinnati with Joe Burrow back and healthy, the New England Patriots with the leading candidate for MVP, Drake Maye, and the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions that although they're at each other's throats, they're still winning games. So to me, 9-8 is a real possibility for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Can I see Houston at 6-5 get into 9-8? Yes, I can. And then the Bills would lose a tiebreaker with the Houston Texans because they lost head up. Let's take a look at Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. They got a decent shot because their division is trash. But the Baltimore is 5-5. They trail Pittsburgh at 6-4. let's remember what Lamar Jackson looked like last week in a 23-16 victory over the Cleveland Browns. He threw 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. Lamar Jackson looked like trash. The Baltimore Ravens are not exuding confidence or giving anybody a reason to believe they're going to snap back to form. Lamar Jackson's in jeopardy. The Kansas City Chiefs are in a lot of trouble. They're 5-5. They trail the Denver Broncos at 9-2 within the AFC West. The Chargers, they trail, who are 7-4. The Chiefs have one lane, the wild card lane, and they're 5-5. And I believe they've lost to the Houston Texans and some of these other wild card teams. The tiebreaker situation for the Kansas City Chiefs looks bleak. And then finally, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. It's going to take an incredible Hail Mary for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals to do anything. They're 3-7. They trail the 6-4 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 5-5 Baltimore Ravens. Bengals, not really a scenario that I can see. So we're looking at an AFC that potentially, on paper, could be missing Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. That is a nightmare scenario. Right now, the Chiefs and the Ravens are not in the playoffs. The Houston Texans are not in. Buffalo is in. Buffalo is in right now, but does anyone like the way the Buffalo Bills are trending? So you got, 3 of these teams right now, if they stop today, wouldn't be in the playoffs. Mahomes, Jackson, and Burrow. To me, Buffalo is hanging by a thread. They're not trending the right direction. They can't stop it. Their defense is weak and struggles to stop any team's running game. And their offense is very inconsistent. Last night, you would have thought that, hey, they didn't get anything from the running game. Well, yes, they did. James Cook ran for like 116 yards. This last night's game fell on Josh Allen. Josh Allen seems to be cracking under the pressure. Buffalo's offensive line is in contention to be one of the worst pass protection offensive lines in football. We got a hot mess going on in the AFC, and we got a hot mess going on in the NFC as it relates to the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts. And so we'll put a button somewhat in this conversation. I'll bring Seth into this conversation. We'll get a quick comment from him about the Buffalo Bills and what we saw last night from Josh Allen. But then we'll quickly transition into the Philadelphia Eagles. Seth knows the entire NFL. Seth, thank you so much for joining us today. What do you make of the Buffalo Bills, their inability to protect Josh Allen, and Josh Allen not playing at the level we normally expect from him?
Well, listen, man, I think that when you look at the Buffalo Bills, they just don't have enough on the outside. When, the 2 tight ends are really their passing game. Keon Coleman has been a disappointment, even though that's somebody that they really relied on to come through this year. And we made a big deal about Josh Allen getting it done last year and winning the MVP. And the whole argument was he's doing it with no help. He's making these nobodies somebody. Well, that's blown up in their face this year because defensively they're not as good as they've been. And they're asking him to do too much. And for the first time, you're seeing the offensive line not be able to protect him. 8 sacks in one game? Good Lord. But, when you don't give a guy the weapons and then he doesn't have the protection, then all of a sudden what winds up happening is, I've said it as long as I've been in media. Pressure is every quarterback's kryptonite. I don't care how good they are. You looked at Jared Goff last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the week before, I told anybody who wanted to listen, I was like, if you can stop those 2 running backs, then you can shut down that Detroit offense. plain and simple. Everything they do revolves around the running game. Now, yeah, you know, Josh Allen had a run game last night, but it was a matter of two big plays. They could not consistently run the ball enough in order for Josh to get to the play action pass and things like that. So, in some ways, I'm surprised because he is the reigning MVP. But in a lot of ways, when I look at that roster, I'm not really surprised.
Seth, let's go right to your hometown and the team that you cover and follow the closest. I want to start with, are you in hot water? I mean, because some of what you reported earlier this week has driven a lot of the conversation about Jalen Hurts. Are people upset with you?
You know what, man? Listen, I'm like you, man. The reason why we over here on the internet instead of on national TV is because of how we approach this thing. You know, my mama taught me that the truth is like a lion. You don't need to defend it. You just set it free. It'll defend itself. Okay. So I don't work for Jeffrey Lurie and the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't work for anybody anymore. I work for myself. So I have free speech to be able to, report what I want to report and say it the way that I want to say it without there being any repercussions, other than the sponsors that I have, that support me. And if a sponsor doesn't live by the creed of, the truth is like a lion, then I go and I find sponsors that do, because that's all I can do. If I can't speak the truth, then I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in some hot water from the sense that, you've got, people on the internet that's upset and mad with me because they're like, oh, you're tearing down the team. I'm like, wait a minute. The guy that I work with has been in this industry in the Philadelphia area for over 30 years. Okay. Trusted. He is the one that brought this to life. And when people don't realize that, tell them, in order for you to really get, I said, there's a difference between content and context. And anybody who knows me, they know that I am not someone, who's here for clicks. Okay. If you want the full context, go and watch the whole conversation, which means you would have to go and watch our post-game show in order to get it. He brought it up. He said it, Derek Gunn. And what I did was I said, Derek, no. I'm like, not Jalen Hurts. I'm like, because when you look at him, he looks like the perfect quarterback. He says all the right things. He does all the right things. And, he takes accountability. And I said, I'm not believing that. And he looked at me and he looked at everyone that was watching our show and said, trust me. Okay. Now I know he's got connections into that building. Okay. And what he told me when he said that, I said, okay, this is newsworthy. We have to talk about it. The next morning I go on WIP and the question is asked and I answer the question, and then people start to lose their mind. So if you're upset, you're upset. You can't get mad at me because the story got out. It's not my job to sit on it. It's newsworthy, so it's worth having a conversation about. Somebody in the Eagles organization wanted this out, and they made sure that it got out. It had nothing to do with players. It had nothing to do with Jalen. I love the guy. I think he's a phenomenal athlete, but he's not simply not playing his best football right now, Jason. And am I supposed to, because I used to play for the team and I want the team to be successful the same way you want your Kansas City Chiefs to be successful? Am I supposed to put the pom poms on and shake them just because I report on them and I play for them? What happened to the truth about what I'm seeing? So, at the end of the day, people can be mad, they can be upset. It is what it is. If the Eagles didn't want this out, it would not be out.
Go ahead and put, for my audience, restate what is out. What's going on with Jalen Hurts within that building?
We talked about not only the offense, we talked about how Jalen is playing. And obviously, the rift with him and AJ because AJ wants the football. Okay. So Derek said, quote, there are some players in the locker room, as well as some people in the Eagles organization that are not pleased with Jalen Hurts. Now, and this is where I push back. I'm like, you're insane. The dude is the reigning Super Bowl MVP, and he just went to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years and won one and lost one. Okay. You mean to tell me that the organization is upset with him? Why? Because he's not doing the things the way that they want him to do it. He's kind of doing things the way that he wants to do them. And that's when I began to question. I said, I don't believe that. I said, because at the end of the day, this is a coach's son. He was raised in the game. He played for Nick Saban. Are you kidding me? He played for Lincoln Riley. Are you kidding me? You gonna tell me that this kid, he's come in this building, and because now he got the money, he got the franchise tag, and he's got all the notoriety, that any quarterback would want. Now all of a sudden you're gonna tell me that he's flipped the script? And Derek looked at me and shook his head. He said, "Yep." And I was like, I don't believe it, but I got to take him at his word because I trust the dude.
So, I mean, when I hear that, the one thing referencing Nick Saban, referencing Lincoln Riley, but also remember he lost his job at Alabama, handled it remarkably. I can remember, came back in and actually saved Alabama. And I remember saying, like, man, this dude could be president one day. I mean, this is one of the great young leaders we've ever seen. And we're now suggesting that the fame, the success, the accolades, and the money have potentially changed Jalen Hurts.
I said, I want people to know, Jason, I am not suggesting anything. What I'm saying is that a guy who I work with every game day, who has been known to be an Eagles insider for the last 30 plus years, this is what he brought to our show last week. Okay. And people are pissed off and mad about it. But I would say to you, if you had that information, is it not newsworthy for you as a person in the media? Is it not newsworthy to even have the conversation that potentially this could be why this offense ranks in the bottom third, and yet they're still 8-2, you know? And I think what's really happening is that I think this team thrives off of the chaos. I had Howie Long on my podcast on Tuesday, and I told him the same thing. I think this team thrives off of it. It allows them to close ranks. It allows them, to assume the us against the world mentality. It allows them to step back into underdog realm when they won the Super Bowl. And some teams just function better off of dysfunction, if you will. As crazy as that sounds.
What you seem to be suggesting is, if I connect the dots to what you're saying, it's like the Eagles wanted this out here. And so the Eagles perhaps realizing, hey, man, we need some internal strife. We need something that perhaps causes Jalen and A.J. Brown to, like, hey, man, we got to get in the room and figure this out. And what you're suggesting is, like, it's a promotion of we all we got, we all we need. That out of that chaos, there may be a tighter bond. Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't think the Eagles themselves are trying to promote the chaos. Some of the chaos is real. Like when you ask Jalen questions about A.J. Brown, he refers you to KP, who is the offense coordinator. When you ask A.J. Brown about Jalen, he tap dances around it. Something's going on between them. I don't know what it is. Um, I think that so I don't think the organization itself or whoever it is that leaked this is really trying to cause the chaos. They know that the chaos is there. They know that this team, this unit knows how to fight through and assume that we all we got, we all we need. I just believe that you know, I think that they feel like the best way to resolve it, like go back to last year. You remember when this thing with AJ and and Jalen was going on, and Brandon Graham came out, did a he was doing a radio show on a Monday or Tuesday night, and he said, well, it's obvious that their friendship ain't as tight as it used to be. It's obvious that something's going on. And he got crushed here in Philadelphia. Like, he came out 2 days later and apologized. And, so what people don't do is people don't look at and remember the little small details, the little breadcrumbs that always lead you back to, to the whole scenario. What Brandon was doing, Brandon saw the collapse. He was here for the collapse in 2023 when they started off 10-1 and then just went in the tank in the second half and got blown out by Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first round of the playoffs. And he knew the tension that was there. Him coming out saying that there was something between them, to me, that was the genesis of, we got to figure this out, because we're not going to waste another potential Super Bowl season with this conflict. So what it forced everybody to do, even though Brandon was the one that had to bite the bullet and take the heat, it forced everybody in the organization to pull these two guys together for the greater good. It worked because they went on and won the Super Bowl last year. And I don't know whether this is another one of those situations, another one of those ploys to, pull them together and have them work it out before it's too late, or what it is, Jason, But these types of things don't get revealed unless, teams or organizations want it revealed. And, the biggest problem I have is that, why don't you keep it internal? Why isn't a guy like Nick Sirianni addressing it? Like, even the thing with AJ, you don't see other great wide receivers around the league, having the types of issues that he's had this year. You don't see quarterback wide receiver feuds so public like you see here. Like, that ain't happening to Andy Reid's on the Andy Reid's watch. Even though, we had the T.O. thing here, you'll never see it again under Andy Reid's watch. You don't see it under Sean Payton's watch. Like, there are certain, you don't see it under any other team, what's going on here in Philadelphia. So the big question for me is, why couldn't they resolve it on the inside? Why, isn't Nick Sirianni big enough personality as a head coach to rein this all in? Like the whole thing with AJ, and being online and, the little, quips, the little cryptic messages that he was leaving online. And then all of a sudden, Big Dom gets AJ and Jeffrey together and they have a conversation about it. And from what I understood, it's been reported that AJ said, I'll calm down on the social media, messages, cryptic messages. And then he apologized to Jeffrey Lurie, and Jeffrey said, you don't have to apologize to me. See, all of these little things, all of these little issues that crop up and all of these little reportings in the media, people want me to be quiet and don't talk about it because you're making the situation worse. You're making it bigger than it is. Okay? Why are you mad at me? I didn't start it. This stuff is out there for public consumption. And if it's out there for public consumption and it surrounds this team and I report on this team, it's newsworthy, it's conversation worthy. You know, players got to deal with it just like any other player in any other city.
Let me throw this at you. There is a history, there seems to be, of obviously Donovan McNabb, who, two-parent, somewhat suburban black quarterback, had problems with Terrell Owens, had problems in the locker room. Russell Wilson, two-parent, suburban, winner, had problems in the locker room in Seattle. Now here we have our best and brightest, Jalen Hurts. Again, incredible resume, incredible leader coming out of college. Two parents, a little bit suburban, but not as. And again, I don't mean this in a negative way, but Russell was described as corny, and I disagree with that. He's just who he is. But there does seem to be a problem for these more buttoned up Suburbans, the Fresh Prince kids, Carlton or whatever. There seems to be like a little consistent problem going on here. Am I reading too much into it?
You know, you can look at those other two guys, and there's a little bit of water under the bridge. So you have the ability to have enough conversations with enough people that were in that locker room that can kind of confirm some of the things that you're talking about. Like, there are people that were around and on that team with Donovan McNabb that will confirm or deny a lot of stuff. There are people that are in McNabb camp, and there are other people that are in T.O.'s camp. Okay, so you got a full view, even though you weren't there, of truly what happened there. We don't know with Jalen. That's the problem. That's the thing that's so shocking to me, because I don't see him that way. When I watch him on the field, he's all about football. He's all about the game. He's all about doing the right thing, all about saying the right thing, all about being politically correct, all about taking accountability. When something's wrong, it's his fault. And those other two situations that you just brought up, those two guys didn't operate that way. Those guys were me guys. Jalen's not a me guy, Jason. So that's why this stuff, when it comes out, is shocking to me, because I don't see him that way. And and to your point, to your earlier point, he's been through so much in his football life that I find it hard to believe that all of a sudden he could lose the foundation that he came upon, that being a coach's son, and how he revered his dad, and how he revered Nick Saban and all his Nick Sabanisms that he still uses in interviews even today. I find it mind-blowing, that someone would change. That's why even now we're talking about it, because it's conversation worthy. But there's a side of me that still don't believe that this is what's going on with Jalen Hurts. But the other thing that I do know 100% for sure, Jason, is that money is the greatest revealer in the world. So who you are on the inside, whether you're good or bad, the person that people really don't know, because we all hold the veil up and we show people who we want them to believe that we are. Okay? But money as a revealer, whoever you are in your heart, whether you're a good person or a bad person, when you get it, it just reveals even that much more of who you are, because you become more of an a-hole, or you become more of a really good person when you have money.
Money also drives more jealousy than perhaps anything on the planet. And so when I look at Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens. Donovan McNabb, franchise quarterback, paid a lot of money in Philadelphia, and there would be an argument in that locker room if we dialed the clock back, like, man, he's got all the money, but he's actually not our best player. Terrell Owens certainly believed I'm the best player, and that's why I'm in the Hall of Fame, and Donovan McNabb isn't. You go over to Seattle. Russell Wilson's got all the money, and there are guys like, he ain't our best player. You know, Marshawn Lynch is better than him. These guys in the Legion of Boom feel like they're better than him. Now you go over to Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts got the money, and A.J. Brown is sitting there saying, I'm actually the better player, and this quarterback that's not getting me the ball is going to prevent me from maxing out financially. Because everybody's always worried about their next contract. And didn't A.J. Brown have 900 yards, I believe, last season? Maybe he's on pace for that again this season. And to me, you could make a case like A.J. Brown is one of the 2 or 3 best wide receivers in the NFL. And I just, financial jealousy or the desire, if you feel someone is standing in your way of getting the money that you feel like you can earn, maybe that's what's at the root of this.
Well, listen, if you want to, to me, you're talking about 2 separate things, but then they coalesce as one. Okay, you're talking about performance and how you're perceived in the league, and you're talking about the money. Well, listen, he already got the bag. When the Eagles traded for him, they signed him to a 4-year, I believe, either a 3-year $75 million or a 4-year $100 million deal. So he came in, he got the 25 per year on average. Okay, they just re-upped him last year, and I believe they re-upped him and they extended him for 3 years for, I believe it's $33 million per year. Okay, so he's got the bag. If there's anything, if there's some dissension here, it's okay. Well, maybe it's his diminishing numbers. And that's the issue. And that leads to legacy and potential Hall of Fame down the road, and that's why, AJ potentially could be pissed off. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why, if you have a guy that's, top 3 wide receiver, why you aren't, as a quarterback, trying to get him the ball. B, as a offensive coordinator, why you aren't scheming ways to get him the ball and get him involved. For me, the objective always is to win. Everything else balances itself out. And when you win, there's a certain amount of guys that are going to, with a salary cap, a certain amount of guys are going to get paid anyway. The number 1 wide receiver is going to get paid. Quarterback's going to get paid. The left tackle is going to get paid. The best pass rusher going to get paid. The cornerback's going to get paid. There's a certain amount of guys, Jason, is going to get paid if you win anyway. And there's so much money in the salary cap now, those 5 positions, 6 positions, they're probably going to get paid even on bad teams. So when you talk about the money, I don't think the money is an issue. I think legacy more than anything. My problem with that is, legacy comes over a period of time. AJ's 28 years old. It's not like he's an old man. If it's about winning, they had to make the shift last year to go to the running game because Saquon was Saquon. This year, I'm not so sure that has to be that the issue with the offense is the offensive line is not as dominant as it's been. They're not running the ball as great as they've run it. And I'm telling you right now, I saw people talking about it, and I saw the little piece that you had on the lower thirds talking about Saquon earlier. It's not Saquon's fault. Saquon is still the same player. There's been no drop-off in Saquon's play. The problem is the offensive line was so dominant last year that he could shine. Sometimes he's got to feel like he's in New York again, the way that he's not able to run the ball the way he ran it last year. Because the interior 3, the guards, the 2 guards and the center, they've been beat up, they've been hurt, and they've been dominated the majority of the year. And teams have figured, hey, if they're gonna run out of shotgun, which means that 95% of the runs have to come back across the quarterback's face, we're just gonna slant right into it. So Saquon's getting the ball, boom, somebody's in the backfield. You have to move the offensive line the other way. And the few times that he's had one big game rushing 150 yards on 14 carries and touchdown, maybe 2 against the Giants in their second meeting. They dominated the line of scrimmage. Other than that, they haven't been overly dominant in the run game. So you would expect that now's the time for the passing game to kind of take over and do, for the running game what the running game did for the passing game last year, But it's just not happening. It's just not happening.
Seth, I'm gonna get you out of here on this note, and maybe you got no opinion on this. Are you into the Shedeur Sanders career controversy? Are you looking forward to Browns Raiders? What do you expect from Shedeur Sanders?
Jason, this is my opinion, and my opinion only. And you know me, I don't give a damn what anybody thinks. Okay? I think that kid went into the draft as one of the top 2 quarterbacks last year, and something happened where he just got pushed aside. Okay? I won't even speculate because I don't know. But I call bullshit when you are like in the top 2 and you get pushed all the way to the 5th round. I call bullshit. Plain and simple. So am I cheering for him? Hell yeah, I'm cheering for him. Because I know what it's like for people to see what you bring to the table and ignore it to the point where they dismiss you. And people ask me all the time, man, why you always play with a chip on your shoulder? Because nobody thought I was worth a shit. And I had to come in and fight and show everybody, who I was and what I could be. So I wasn't ever going to let that chip fall off because I knew what it was to be disrespected. And I feel for him, man. I really do. And I want him to succeed. And I feel bad that he's in a place where they really don't want him to succeed. Because in my opinion, you only need 3 quarterbacks on your roster, right?
Yes.
So why is he on your roster as the 4th quarterback if you really don't need but 3? Even when you cut down to your final roster. And then all of a sudden, he outperforms Dylan Gabriel in the preseason. They try to nullify that with the last game of the season by putting him in with the 5 guys that you knew was going to be cut the following Tuesday, and he got decimated. You didn't put Dylan Gabriel in with them bums, did you? But you put him in with somebody that wasn't even going to block for him, and you knew they couldn't block. You knew they were training camp bodies. Okay, listen. I see you laughing. This is Jason. I'm just saying. This is my truth, and you asked the question. I'm gonna give you the full.
I'm not
vote,
interrupting you, Seth. I want you to.
I know. So then, when you decide to trade Kenny Pickett, you do a little bit of a tap dance, and we don't know who's back up and who's going to be 3rd when you knew all along who was going to be the 3rd damn quarterback. Just say it, okay? And then when Joe Flacco goes down, or you trade Joe Flacco, okay? And so the minute that you trade Joe Flacco, that means that Shedeur Sanders is the backup quarterback. You make him the backup quarterback, but you go through 5 weeks of football and he don't get a single snap as the backup quarterback with the number 1s. Hey, come on, man. What are y'all really trying to do? If you don't like the kid, trade him. I'm sure somebody out there, has seen enough that they may bring him in as a
Practice
project, a practice squad player, and work with him. But what are you trying to do, Cleveland? Are you just trying to ruin the guy? What is it that you're really trying to do? So now it's all come full circle,
I wish
Okay,
I had a violin because I'd love to play a violin underneath this. Because I
it's
mean,
okay.
I'm just
It's okay.
because Seth.
I'm just
Shedeur
saying.
has
I'm
a
just
lot in
saying.
common with you because if Shedeur doesn't make it in the NFL, he'll probably be homeless and starve to death. I mean, you
I
know,
doubt it.
unlike
I doubt
you, you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. Shadeur's had it so hard. I feel so sorry for Shedeur. His whole family's counting on him, and
it.
someone
Listen,
like you that comes from great wealth, I can see why you could relate to Shedeur. Go ahead.
Mason, let me tell you. Let me tell you something. There used to be a time in the NFL where meritocracy meant something.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not so sure that that rules the day anymore, and that's my problem. That's all I'm saying. You're supposed to look at a player and compare him to another player and make a fair judgment about who the better player is, non-biased. Okay, and you make that judgment, and whichever one's the best, that's the one that's supposed to play. The NFL hangs its shield on meritocracy, and sometimes it's a downright lie. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, let me make one point because and I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on the show. You had a lot of very interesting thoughts. But take someone like me, and yes, I played mediocre football at Ball State University. But trust me, when I showed up, I was better than a lot of guys that were playing ahead of me. And that was the facts for the first 2 years I was there. But my attitude was so trash and my work ethic was so trash that the coaches couldn't stand me and tried to run me off the team. And I used to sit there and think that these coaches are idiots, they're retarded, and blah, blah. And I never looked at myself. And it's like, man, you done jacked this whole thing up with your attitude. Because I was pissed. Like, man, I should be at Purdue. I should be at the Big Ten. I should be playing blah, 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 blah. And I didn't appreciate the opportunity that I had. And my attitude undermined me. And I thought the coaches hated me, and I certainly hated the coaches. And then the next 2 years, I changed my attitude, and everything changed. There is a possibility that, Shedeur has the wrong attitude. Telling teams before the draft, hey, don't draft me. I don't want to play for you. That's insanity, Seth.
When Eli Manning did it, it wasn't insane when they did it.
If you got
I mean, I'm
Eli
just
Manning's
asking. I'm just
talent,
asking for a friend. I'm just asking for a friend, man. But when those guys did it, was it like when you're the one or two quarterback coming out in the draft? Do you understand the power that you have? Because the thought is that I'm gonna be drafted either in the top five. Okay. So when Eli Manning knew that he was going to be drafted in the top five, and John Elway knew that they were going to be drafted in the top five, and I love John, won a Super Bowl with him, played with him, okay, played against them. When they did it, was it not okay?
well, listen, some people, actually, I could make a crude analogy, but I try to stay away from crude analogies. But, some guys walk around like, you know, you know, telling women that they packing 8, 9 when they're really packing 5 and 6, and then your pants get pulled down and you get exposed, and then you run around and try to cover up. Shedeur was walking around like he was packing, and he wasn't, and his pants got pulled down, and he's the motion in the ocean is gonna have to carry him as a football player. He's not as good as he thought he was. That would be my and everybody that thought he was that good, they're wrong. Those of us that lived and died and watched every game and watched this guy drift back in the pocket, then drift out to the left or right, and was sitting there like, man, this dude ain't Deion athletically. He's not going to get away with that in the NFL. There's going to be guys like Seth Joyner that will run just as fast as him, if not faster, than this competition he's facing in the Big 12. He doesn't process the game fast enough. He's only played in his daddy's system. Again, the other thing, like for someone like you that really, 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 let's use the term the young people, you got it out the mud. you had to earn everything that you got on the football field. This guy, until this year, had never competed for a quarterback position in his life. He was named the starter Pee-wee, junior high, high school, and college before he ever took the field because he was coached by his daddy. I'm not surprised that he doesn't know how to compete. But that's me. Seth, this was awesome. Thank you so much. I'll be in touch. That's Seth Joyner. We got to keep it moving here because now I'm behind schedule because Seth was so good. One, I need to take care of our friends at Flying Ace because I want to thank these guys at Flying Ace they just sent me a new bottle and I appreciate it. I think my friend, this is straight bourbon whiskey the way it is meant to be. It is some bourbons, chase trends, Flying Ace, chases legacy. As I said, this is the way it was meant to be. Bold, balanced, and unapologetically American. No gimmicks, no fluff. Just real whiskey made for those who still believe in hard work and high standards. If that sounds like you're kind of poor, it's time to level up. Buy online at flyingacespirits.com. Use the promo code BLAZE for free shipping. Flying Ace, thank you so much. I'll put this to good use. When we come back, I got some things I want to get off my chest about Stephen A. Smith. Next. Welcome to BYOG, Jason and Jeffrey. Love and Theft. They're known for being a great harmonic duet. They used to open, went on tour with Taylor Swift. Uh-huh. What year is this?
2008, I believe.
Were both you guys married then? Did you take your shot? Did you throw your hat in the ring?
Just a little tidbit of information. Taylor has a song on her Fearless record called Hey Steven, and it is about this Steven right here. And if you know how she hides Easter eggs in the liner notes of her.
Well, hold for 1 second. Taylor Swift wrote a song about you?
Yeah. Yeah.
50 Cent had this very popular song called Magic Stick. And I think I heard that a country music artist actually wrote that. Was that you?
He sure did. That was him.
I'm 62 days sober today for the first time I've been sober for more than 2 weeks since I moved to Nashville from something. If Baker Mayfield starts leading us all the way down the field and getting touchdowns and we're winning games and we're like going to the Super Bowl, it's gonna be really hard not to like drink for that. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, guys. Like, let's be honest. I'm gonna have a cocktail.
All right, welcome back to the show. Jason Whitlock here, your host. Let's get into it. Stephen A. Smith got corrected on his own show after doing something incredibly stupid, in my view. Incredibly inappropriate. It's not just stupid. It was really highly inappropriate. Drake Maye, the quarterback for the New England Patriots, who's having a remarkable season, has the Patriots at, I believe, 8-2 or 9-2. He's maybe a front runner for the MVP. Cam Newton has an opinion that the Patriots are fool's gold, and he kind of insinuated that Drake Maye is fool's gold. He didn't say it straight up outright, but the implication is clear. Drake Maye responded when asked by a reporter, and the reporter Drake Maye said, "Look, man, I don't even know what show he's on, blah, blah, blah," and, just dismissed Cam Newton and said, "Look, man, I'm worried about the guys in this locker room and what people in this locker room and on my team think." This is standard back and forth between the media. Just standard. Cam Newton has a right to say, "Hey, I think the Patriots are overvalued. I don't buy their 9-2 record. I don't buy Drake Maye. They've played a soft schedule." Cam Newton has every right to say that. And Drake Maye has every right to say, "Man, I don't even know what Cam Newton's doing, where'd this come from? I don't know what show he's on." Stephen A. Smith comes up with this unbelievable response where he's calling Drake Maye a liar based off the fact that Drake Maye is claiming he doesn't know what show Cam Newton is on. Anyway, let's play the clip.
About this kid, he can run it, he's tough, he's poised, and he's absolutely dynamic in the pass game. And this team under Mike Vrabel can win the AFC Championship.
He's also a liar. He's also a liar. First of all, let me tell you, it's not to brag. Listen, Pardon the Interruption is the #1 show on ESPN spanning 20-plus decades. First Take is the #1 morning show, 13 years and counting. April will be 14 years. Don't tell me you are an athlete and you don't know that. Don't tell me you are an athlete and you don't know that Cam Newton ain't on the show. You're lying. That's #1. #2, I'm going to take it to a more serious tone with that, because I get where you're coming from, RC, and I don't disagree with you. But how about athletes looking out for athletes? I remember when there was a time when it was so much media that we were saying, athletes, once you're not playing anymore because of your expertise, y'all should be on TV. The opportunity should be there. One of the problems is sitting here right in front of y'all, right? This is First Take. There's nothing that I know about football that they haven't taught me. I was a reporter. Ain't play no damn football. Don't tackle me. Don't hit me. No, I don't want it. You understand what I'm saying? I sit up there and I learn from these folks, the people that played in this game, that, when it's over, what are we looking for? What do we want to do? And the media offers former professional athletes opportunities that corporate America, for the most part, ain't doing. But a professional athlete performing because he in his feelings, because somebody might have critiqued him, or some weak-ass reporter or pundit on radio gonna ask the question out of context. Out of context. They misquote Cam, all right, because like Cam said, he was talking about the Patriots, not him. And you're going to ask the question, well, ask it accurately instead of misrepresenting Cam Newton. And if you're a player, how about knowing that, Drake Maye, you were at Carolina. We like what we're seeing from you now. We didn't see that last year in New England. We damn sure didn't see it in North Carolina. This brother right here is a national champion.
You are sitting on national television calling a 23-year-old NFL quarterback. You're 58. You're a journalist, allegedly. You're making $20 million a year. And you're calling some 23-year-old kid a liar. And again, this isn't just me. When Stephen A. said that, and he doubled down and said it twice, called Drake Maye a liar, you could hear the crowd murmur like, wow, that's over the top. That's strong. That the crowd reacted like, hey, that's inappropriate. You could hear the crowd. You're a liar. He's a liar. He doubled down and said it twice. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this. I saw this yesterday and I'm like, the man who's run around for 20 plus years pretending he had a college basketball career, pretending that he has a 6-inch screw in his knee, pretending that he drove from New York on a Saturday to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and had a tryout for the Winston-Salem State basketball team in 1988 or around there, on a Sunday in February, when the team is in the middle of the season or at the end of the season, starting to prepare for its conference tournament. And they hold a tryout on a Sunday in February. And you are lying and telling people, yeah, I knocked down 17 straight threes, and this little poor, broke HBCU offered me a full ride scholarship on the spot. You're telling those lies for 20 plus years. And you're calling Drake Maye a liar on national TV because he says, hey, I don't know where Cam Newton does a show twice a week? This is insanity. And that ESPN is allowing this. This man has no self-awareness. No, ESPN doesn't care about the truth. When I call this man a plant, and one of the most dishonest, disingenuous people in the history of sports media. I'm not exaggerating. The audacity to call this young man a liar twice when you've done nothing but tell lies and you've admitted that you're lying. I want to play SOT 6. This is Stephen A. Smith acknowledging the lies. Play the clip.
They talk about I averaged 1.5 points a game. I saw some article on social media. That's a lie. It was less. See that? You didn't know I was going to say that, did you? It was less than that. It's a lie. How about 0? Because I never played. Because I cracked my kneecap in half. I got operated on at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. My mama was by my bedside. My sisters came to see me. They said I'd never walk straight again. My bone cracked in half. My first year at Winston-Salem State. I still have those knee pains to this very day. Still. In the knee that still has a 6-inch screw in it that I never took out. And in the left knee, because I spent years overcompensating for the pain in the right knee. You didn't know that, did you?
Did you just watch what he just did there? He copped to one lie and then stacked more lies on top of the lie that he's copping to. I want you to understand. A 6-inch screw in his knee that he never took out and is still there. A 6-inch screw. Just think about it. Get a ruler out, get measuring tape out, and I want you to, this is about 6 inches. Or as I say, this is about 6 inches. All right, anyway. He's saying he has it in his knee. He's lying on top of copying to lies. And this man is comfortable on national TV calling Drake Maye a liar. Are you kidding me? What is ESPN doing? How is this a possibility? This is a congenital liar, Stephen A. Smith, that's so emboldened. Can we play the clip again and we'll stop it? This is Stephen A. calling Drake Maye a liar. I want you to listen to how the crowd reacts. You just don't call people liars willy-nilly. That's a serious allegation. That's a serious impugning of someone's character. And so when I call Stephen A. Smith a liar, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's a serious allegation, particularly for a journalist. But we just watched him. I'm calling him a liar because he cops the line and then stacks more lies on top of it. My sister and them, they came to see me. Who adds that detail if they're telling the truth? But let's go back, and we don't have to play a lot. I just want you to hear the first, early on in this clip, the first 2 times he calls Drake Maye a liar. Play the clip.
Think about this kid. He can run it, he's tough, he's poised, and he's absolutely dynamic in the pass game. And this team under Mike Vrabel can win the AFC Championship.
He's also a liar. He's also a liar. First of all, let me tell you, it's not to brag. Listen.
We can stop there. The crowd goes quiet. This is slander. Obvious slander. And let me do something I rarely do on this show, but I have to do it. I want to give Ryan Clark credit for rebuking Stephen A. Smith, in real time on the show. Play the clip.
Number 1 overall pick. You ain't take the Patriots to the Super Bowl yet. This brother did. And your response is going to be, man, please, I don't even know what
No, don't do that. No. Stephen A., I'm not going to let you do that because
Please.
that's not how he answered the question. Like, Drake Maye don't even have that sort of energy. Now, if you want to go to the reporter and say, hey, man, do your own research. Come up with your own questions. Watch your own film. Then that's one thing. But these dudes could respond to us however they want to respond to us.
No,
Just because we played, we don't get to say whatever we want about them, and they don't get the opportunity to tell us what they feel. He didn't disrespect them.
I didn't say
and honestly, this is true, too.
I didn't say no.
It's one thing if they say, Stephen A. said this, everybody knows what show Stephen A. on.
Yeah.
Everybody might not know that he don't do this 2 days.
Let me say this.
Like, I'm not going to let you do it.
Thank you.
Cam, another delusional person. He wants to thank Stephen A. for caping up for him. But Ryan Clark, good job. Great job. Stephen A. needed to be rebuked, and he was. It would have been nice if you had said, like, hey, man, don't be calling this kid a liar. But I got to give Ryan Clark credit for, like, hey, man, we can't be this thin-skinned. We get up here and say crazy things about athletes or things athletes disagree with, and, you know, they don't hop on TV and say, oh, this person's a liar, this person. Be a man about it is basically what Ryan Clark was saying. And there's nothing manly about Stephen A. Smith. He's the biggest fraud, perhaps in the history of media, certainly the biggest fraud in the history of sports media. That's why I call him Stephen A. Myth. Go read his book. It's filled with lies, outright lies. He is the liar. Sitting here jumping on Drake Maye, who's sitting there at 9-10 and having an incredible season. Trust me, we know. If Drake Maye had a bit more melanin, this would have never happened. Ever. Never, ever, ever would have happened. Did this because he's white. So someone, Jimmy Pitaro, someone at ESPN with an ounce of character needs to shut Stephen A. Smith down, and Dave Roberts and the people that you've installed in charge that are supposed to manage Stephen A. Smith. Put someone in charge of Stephen A. Smith that has some character or a pair of balls. That has the ability to be like, hey, man, we ain't doing that. That's crazy. But everybody bows to a retard in Stephen A. Smith. Flunked fourth grade in his own book. His high school counselor laughed at the thought of him going to college. The reason he went to Winston-Salem State is because they're the only school that lets retards in. If you have the money, they'll let you in. Sorry if that offends anybody, but, you know, I had to say it. Let me get to my Fearless 5 picks, and then we'll get to JB, and then I'll end the show with some thoughts I have on Shedeur Sanders leading into Shedeur Palooza this weekend. So let's play the Fearless 5 intro. This is turning into one of the hardest segments for me to do. Do we have the graphic? I think I went 2 and 3 last week. Do we have that? Oh, I was joking when I said that. We gotta fact check me. We gotta hold me accountable. I think last week I was 20 and 29. If I went 2 and 3, I think I'm 22 and 32 at this point. I think. Yeah, it's not good. I was joking. These guys can't understand my sarcasm. I confuse everybody with, I'm 22 and 32, according to Justin. Anyway, always make the graphic. I want to be held accountable for my bad picks. But trust me, I'm on fire this week. These picks are so easy. There's just no way I miss. I'm about to go on the Stephen A. 17 for 17 streak here. The Colts, we'll start there. The Colts plus 3.5 at the Chiefs. How? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm about to. This is one. I haven't done this. I don't know if I've done this also. This is a pay your mortgage pick. Thankfully for me, I don't have a mortgage. But if I did have a mortgage, I would pay my mortgage with this pick. Is anybody watching the Chiefs? They're hot garbage, and I love the Chiefs. They're giving up 3.5 points to the Colts. No way, Jose. The Colts win outright here. The Colts plus 3.5 at the Chiefs. Next, the Vikings plus 6 at the Packers. Come on, people. Are you not? What are these people in Vegas doing? They're just handing away money this week. Have you not watched the Packers? They're trash. They may win this game, but they're not covering 6 points. I love the Vikings. This will be a low-scoring game, like 13-10, something like that. Both these offenses are trash. J.J. McCarthy is really bad, and Jordan Love's getting exposed. Won't be very many points. Neither team could cover a 6-point spread. Just won't be enough points scored in this game. All right, next, I'm going out on a big limb. This is a big number. Seahawks minus 12.5 at the Titans. Titans aren't any good. Seahawks coming off a loss, a close loss last week. Seahawks rebound. They'll win this game by 17 to 21 points. I don't care what the weather is out here. Sam Darnold and the Seahawks will be extra motivated. They cover the 12.5 points here. Next, this is going to bite me in the rear end, but because I really don't like the Jaguars and I really don't like Trevor Lawrence. Don't think they're that good, but -3 at the Cardinals? The Cardinals without Kyler Murray, with Jacoby Brissett out there. The Cardinals, one of the worst teams, I think, in football. The Cardinals have lost 4 straight home games. Let's make it 5, and the Jaguars win by like 10 points. I love this game. And then finally, because I was a coward and I refused to make a pick on the against the spread on the Browns-Raiders, I should have made a pick on the Shedeur game, but I didn't. I'm going to make a pick on the Colorado game, college football. I'm going to make a pick on Deion. Arizona State -7.5 at Colorado. It's senior day in Boulder, and Deion's going to be blubbering in tears. What's that little kicker's name, Mata, as he plays his final home game. They're going to get their brains beat in. Arizona State covers the 7.5 at Colorado. That's your Fearless 5 for this week. When we come back, I can't believe these guys. I went 2-3, and I'm 22-32 overall. When we come back, Coach JB should be in the house with me. Next. Welcome to BYOG, Jason and Jeffrey. Love and Theft. They're known for being a great harmonic duet. They used to open, went on tour with Taylor Swift. What year is this?
2008, I believe.
Were both you guys married then? Did you take your shot? Did you throw your hat in the ring?
Just a little tidbit of information. Taylor has a song on her Fearless record called Hey Steven, and
what do I know?
All right, welcome back to the show. JB, I'm sorry for making you wait, but Seth Joyner was pretty good, and I had to get through all of that. JB, let's start with last night's game. Josh Allen throws 2 interceptions. The Buffalo Bills lose to the Houston Texans, and Davis Mills. Wow, that's kind of shocking, surprising to me. What should we make of the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen?
The bad management team. They didn't make any moves, trade deadline. They have a horrific back row. They average giving up 9 yards a carry to a lame duck running back in Houston. Not even going to be there next year, probably on the team. And you got your all Superman quarterback, 0 weapons to throw to. and you allow a guy you've suspended 2 weeks in a row to continue to be on the sideline, slapping your quarterback in the face by showing him dancing, smiling, kicking it like it's okay to miss meetings and be suspended. This is a mockery, and it's turning into be a team that you can't take serious. So I'm off the Bills. I've been off the Bills. They have zero weapons, Jason. They can't win a real game in the playoffs playing this way. And your run defense is so bad, it's ridiculous. Davis Mills is really good. I've been telling you that since 2021, but what do I know? And they signed him to a 2026 $7 million deal to stay in Houston as the backup behind CJ. I think they should let him play and get out of there and become a starter next year in the league, which he should be. He is definitely a top 32 quarterback in this league. And I think he's playing for a bag of money right now.
Let me push you a little bit further. Since you're saying Davis Mills is a starting quarterback, is he better than C.J. Stroud? Is that what you're insinuating?
Right now he is, and I'm CJ's guy and Tank Dell. CJ needs Tank Dell, my receiver from Indy, of course. He doesn't have him. Davis Mills does not need Tank Dell. Does that make sense? He is getting Nico Collins targets that CJ wasn't getting him for whatever reason. And CJ, I always tell you and everybody else, sophomore slumps are a real thing in the NFL. They are real. It's just there's nothing else. Sean King will tell you, AJ McCarron, who's on my show every week, 3-time national champ, NFL quarterback. Sophomore slumps are real, Jason. The book gets out there. They throw it out there. And second year from first year, Jaden Daniels, first year guys, there's anomalies. CJ had a great first year. Second years, though, look what's happened. Well, CJ has rolled into his third year having a sophomore slump. So now he's having a third issue. I think that's a real thing. And the problem is, right now, I cannot gamble and say, all right, CJ, let's go. We've won 3 games in a row, 5 of 6. Texans are hot. And I think if we learn and look back in history, Jason, learn from one of the GOATs in Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, guess what? I could have went back to Drew Bledsoe, but I stuck with the hot hand and a guy named Tom Brady. I think it worked out. You got to roll with the hot hand. And I get it and all that. But listen, the hot hand is Davis Mills right now. The team is behind him. I don't know if you can throw him out there. I think you're learning from Mac Jones in the Purdy situation. I think you put him out there too fast. Purdy got re-injured. I wouldn't mess with it because you're going to have a Tua 2.0 here. Let this guy sit out a couple more years, weeks, and let Davis Mills continue to go and see what happens. Or start Davis Mills, Jason, and if he slows up, now you roll in CJ. But if you do it the other way, if you start CJ, there's no going back and now bringing Davis Mills in. Now you have a quarterback controversy. Let Davis Mills start. If he slows up and we have some issues, then you roll in your starter who you've paid, who's your long-term guy. We know who's your long-term guy. But right now, I would roll with Davis Mills.
And so if you roll with Davis Mills and he stays hot, could you not just run into the problem of, hey, man, I've already given C.J. Stroud this big bag of money, and now I'm stuck with a quarter that I'd rather stick with Davis Mills.
This is the same story we have across the league, though. You have that in Miami with Tua. You have it in Frisco with Purdy. You have it in Arizona with Kyler Murray. You have it with Sunshine in Jacksonville. These are all guys I said don't pay. But what do I know? And now, guess what? You have the same scenario in all these cities. So it's nothing new. Houston's the same situation. I think you get his trade bait value up right now. And now you trade him in the offseason because you did re-sign him for 26 to a $7 million deal. Trade him low income, low money, just like Minnesota. Remember, Minnesota, who I'm praying for the downfall and demise of because of what you did when I said keep Sam Darnold. I hope you get what you asked for. And that's because you let Daniel Jones go, who was on that roster last year, behind Sam Darnold. And now you got 2 of those guys on other places in the MVP conversation. And you let that go for a guy named J.J. McCarthy, who was an unknown. So I think this is the same situation. Let this guy go. You can get him for the cheap. You can get Davis Mills on the cheap next year, Jason. Let's just think about all the teams that need a quarterback. Vegas, Arizona,
Cleveland.
We can go Cleveland. We can go down the list. We can go all the way down the list. Pittsburgh. We can go all the way down the list. New York Jets. You tell me Davis Mills isn't an upgrade in New York? So there's all kind of spots I can put Davis Mills in right now. So I think you up his value right now by letting him play a few more games, and you get something for him because that defense is as legit as it gets. And I think once you get Tank Dell back next year, you got Nico Collins, you get CJ back, you get Mixon back, which is a dynamic, multifaceted running back. You get that guy back who helps you in the pass game, which has also hurt CJ. People don't realize. You get that all back. You shore up that O-line. You got a lot of pieces in Houston to be really, really good. And now they're really scary. They're a scary team. I don't know if anyone wants to play Houston right now if the playoffs were to start today. And that's with Davis Mills, though. So I'm just saying.
Let me move on to Shedeur Sanders. What's your prediction on what's going to transpire with Shedeur against the Raiders?
It don't matter. They're going to flip it on everybody and act like it was some other reason. The irony of it all is this. The same O-line that Dylan Gabriel had and Joe Flacco had is the same O-line that Shedeur had. So I don't understand why it's the O-line's fault. It's the wideout's fault. He got robbed's fault. Like, Dylan Gabriel had the same O-line, by the way. I didn't hear anybody saying give him more chances. So here it is. It's a joke. It's a mockery. This is why I predicted him to go in the 5th round, which I did live on my show. I have receipts. Everyone else said he's a 1st rounder. No, he's not. He's a 5th rounder. And the 3rd round guy, Dylan Gabriel, kind of proved why he's a 3rd round guy and why this guy's a 5th round guy. He kind of showed you, right? In the 2 quarters that he had. The lead entered the game with the lead and couldn't muster 1 point. So listen, here's the issue. The guy is not very cerebral. I'm going to say that, to say the least. You don't tell the world that they didn't steal your jewelry. You might as well say, hey, man, you missed the left upward cupboard. You didn't open that. That's where the jewelry was. Like, there's no way you can tell me you're sleeping comfortable at night, Jason, because I'm not sleeping comfortable at night for this guy. But he's the starter, and he's saying everything's fine and dandy. So I gotta up my security. I got to do all these other things. Already other things are more important to you than football. Now you're telling me you're all in and you're focused, laser focused and all this? Stop. This guy is not going to – it's not going to age well, Sean. And listen, if I'm wrong, we'll see it. But Monday will be my thumbnail, Shedeur. I'm already letting you know. My thumbnail's Monday's Shedeur, regardless. So it's good for business, but guess what? I don't expect him to even do good versus a horrific team like Las Vegas Raiders. Even that horrific team will probably sack him 5 times. Max Crosby will probably have a record night. And Pete Carroll will fool him with so many disguises in the back row that he'll sit there and hold it in his hand and hold it and try to make moves with his feet, which he's not a freak athlete. Good enough. He's good enough to ad-lib, but he's not a freak. I don't expect this guy to be really good. I'll just say that.
I tend to agree with you. I think that we just saw Josh Allen get sacked 8 times. And, the last time we saw Shedeur in a game like in the preseason when things were kind of built, he got sacked a bunch. He's going to hold the ball. He's going to drift backwards. He's going to drift right or left. And these NFL athletes are different than the Big 12 guys he was facing. And the Big 12 guys could get to him. But Max Crosby and the Raiders are going to get to him. I could see Max Crosby. And did we ever find out, is there an over-under on Max Crosby sacks?
Yesterday the chat said 1.5.
Yeah, the chat said yesterday 1.5. Hadley, Justin, someone in the chat. I think I'm going to have to jump on that. I think Max Crosby could have 3 to 5 sacks this weekend. Derek Thomas's record could be in jeopardy. I think he sacked David Craig 6 or 7 times. That could be in jeopardy. I think the Raiders are bad enough, and Myles Garrett is good enough for the Browns to win this game.
Oh, yeah.
there's that. And so if they won 16-13, and people will talk about how incredible Shedeur was, even though Myles Garrett and these guys may have turned over Geno Smith and all that. But yeah, I'm expecting bad things, and I'm not waiting until Monday, JB. We'll be going live on Fearless at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're having a Shedeur Palooza right after the game. I can't wait until Monday. I'm on fire, and maybe I'll be embarrassed. Maybe Shedeur.
So you might have to eat crow, huh?
Yeah, maybe I will have to eat crow.
Hey, ballsy, pretty ballsy.
Yeah, but I'm stepping out there Sunday night to revel in the fall of Shedeur Sanders. I feel really confident in that. JB, I've already asked you about Davis Mills. Cam Newton has said that the Patriots and Drake Maye are fool's gold. What say you?
I think it's just beginning. I think he's beginning to be the next big thing. Like I said, he was the best in the draft last year. Yes, again, I've been right on quarterback position. I think he needed a guy like Vrabel to tie it all together, get those guys to buy in. Remember, Stephon Diggs was an absolute distraction cancer everywhere he's been. Houston, Buffalo, everywhere. You ain't heard a peep out of him. Just like Tomlin with AB. Head coaches matter. Leadership matters. And at the end of the day, McDermott has clearly shown you he's not by letting Keon Coleman continue to be suspended, but on the sideline, and absolute mockery. And then you see Vrabel. You think that happened in New England with Vrabel? Hell no. So Vrabel is clearly the CEO with the glue that is putting this thing together. And I think May, remember, we're doing this without a lot of weapons. New England doesn't have a lot of big-time guys either now. It reminds you of the Tom Brady teams at wideout. So you got one pretty good guy, athletic guy, and then you got a bunch of role-playing guys that aren't even number twos on most teams. So he's doing it with a run game and defense, just like Belichick did when Vrabel played for him. And remember the difference. Vrabel didn't coach for Belichick. He played for him. A lot of people don't realize that. And there isn't a coach who's left a Belichick tree and become successful anywhere. From Romeo Crennel to Bill O'Brien to Charlie Weiss to Josh McDaniel. They've all been horrible head coaches, but they're good coordinators and they're good under leadership. Josh McDaniel's a great coordinator under a viable leader. And guess what? He was great with Belichick. He's great with Vrabel again as a coordinator. Head coaches, for whatever reason, have never left Belichick, but players have left Belichick and become really good. And Vrabel was a player. And he got what Belichick put down, and he took it, retained it. He even beat him head-to-head in a playoff game in Tennessee one year. So Vrabel has figured it out, and I think he's taken the next step. And I think Vrabel's a really, really good head coach. I think he even learned some things last year by being off a year. And I think he is the guy that gets Drake Maye to the next level. And they're only going to get better, Jason. They're only going to get better in the draft and at wideout. And I think that you haven't even seen I think Drake Maye will be a 12, 15-year starter in the league. And I think I'm excited to see what he ends up doing. I think he's really good.
I think that Cam Newton and Stephen A. Smith have inadvertently done the Patriots and Vrabel and Drake Maye a favor. Calling these guys fool's gold is going to really motivate, inspire. Bengals are catching, to me, the Patriots at the wrong time. And the other thing on the other half of this game is I don't understand why the Bengals would play Joe Burrow. I don't either. There's a chance he may play, start. So I don't understand why they would bring him back this season. They're 3-7. They're not going to do anything. Do you think the Bengals are making a mistake here?
Yeah, it goes back to the Davis Mills thing and CJ. I'm using it in a different way. I had to do it against Smitty today. The reasons why everyone comes out and says you have to play them because they're the franchise, you paid them, blah, 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 is the same reason I'm saying not to play them this year. CJ, unless they make a big run and Davis Mills struggles, yes, you have that ace in the hole. for Cincinnati, he ain't going to play defense, is he? Burrow's not going to play DB or pass rush because they're horrific. It doesn't matter if you score 50. Flacco has been the best quarterback in the NFL, Jason, statistically. Touchdowns versus picks, yardage over all quarterbacks in the 5 starts he had in Cincinnati. Just looking it up. Now, Stafford's the best overall, but since Flacco got to Cincy, he leads the league in touchdowns and yardage. And there's a reason why, because he's big time and he has weapons, unlike Cleveland, where he had, and in Baltimore later in his career. He has the guys to throw to. Why would you throw Burrow out there and you're still getting beat 45-40? It doesn't make sense. That's your franchise. This guy has been hurt 3 years, Jason. Burrow has been hurt 3 of his 5 football seasons as a starter, and we want to throw him out there with this horrific O-line, horrific defense. And for what? You're not making the playoffs. You're not a serious team right now. And you're probably going to get your head coach fired. Here's the reason why they're playing him, though. And this is from some insight from A.J. McCarron, who was in the Cincinnati Bengals organization, who's a Zach Taylor guy. Zach's probably playing Joe to save his job. Because if he doesn't play Joe, then Joe can't advocate for him because Joe and Zach are really, really tight. And Joe's going to say, listen, I need you to keep Zach for me moving forward. If you don't play him and you play Flacco, now you're saying, I give up. So I'm trying to show you that Burrow is still a difference maker, even though Joe Flacco's been great. Burrow is going to make sure the locker room's all energetic, Jason. We're all going to ride for Joe, and we're going to come back and win some games, and it saves his job. So if he doesn't do that, and it's a last-ditch effort to save his job, in my opinion, and I think that's why Joe will probably play, unfortunately. But if he gets hurt, they're all fired.
That is high risk. That's interesting, JB. Really interesting because that is the truth about the NFL. They reach a point where they don't care how you got to 3-14 or 4-13 or whatever. They don't care that the quarterback got hurt. Let's just. Is Zach Taylor? Is he a good head coach?
I mean, when all things are perfect, he got to a Super Bowl in year 2. I mean, all that, they were close to beating the Rams. I mean, you're an OBJ catch away from probably losing that game for the Rams' sake. So, I don't know. I mean, he hasn't been close since. I mean, you paid all the money for the wideout group, which some people will question. You don't have room on your roster to shore up the defense now, and it might hurt you for years to come because you spent all that money totally on quarterback and 2 wide receivers. Your O-line's horrific. Your defense is horrific. You paid Hendrickson to return when he was on the other side of great. So, you maybe have made a bad decision there. You probably could have traded Trey Hendrickson for a couple linebackers and third row guys. I don't know. At the end of the day, it seems like that whole organization, Cincy, along with Cleveland, may be the 2 most bad managed teams in football over, 40 years. I'm just saying, these are 2 bad teams in the draft. They're 2 bad teams in free agency. They're 2 bad teams addressing weaknesses on their roster. They have a lot to shore up in Cincinnati. Are you willing to say Zach can do that? That's the question that you have to ask yourself, because if not, then you have to start looking at the GM. If you're going to keep Zach, you better look at the GM is why we're not addressing the O-line, why we're not addressing defense, because this defense has been bad for a long, long time now. And he continues to be one of the most sacked quarterbacks in football.
The fascinating point you're making is if I'm Mike Brown and I'm known as the cheapest owner in the NFL, maybe the cheapest owner in sports, and the one time you push all your chips into the table, hey, we're going to pay the receivers, we're going to pay Trey Henderson, and it blows up in your face because you've never figured out how to protect the quarterback at the offensive line, and someone, and it depends on what was Zach Taylor in there advocating for? Was he right there with Joe Burrow and the receivers saying, hey, it makes sense to pay the receivers? And was someone on the other side saying, no, man, we'd be better off spending the money on defense or offensive line help that is how you get fired as the head coach despite the injuries. And so if they do fire Zach Taylor, I don't know if I would blame Mike Brown. And now, firing Zach Taylor, Burrow's under contract, and I guess he can't go anywhere, but we've seen guys that want to force their way out of Cincinnati. It's a fascinating scenario.
I've known Zach a long time, since he was at Butler Community College in Kansas. And listen, he's an offensive guy. Quarterback, played quarterback in JUCO like myself, like Josh Allen, like Aaron Rodgers. We're all JUCO guys. He also is an offensive guy. When you're stuck on offense as a play caller and then you're the head coach second, a lot of those guys struggle. Look at Josh McDaniel. Look at Charlie Weiss. Look at all these offensive gurus that take over head jobs. It goes the same for defensive coordinators that only focus on defense, though. Unless you're Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson, Nick Saban in college, you have to be able to be the CEO. Look at what's happening in Detroit right now since he's taken over the play calling duties. Listen, this guy was a 28-year-old interim tight end coach who they put at head coach in Miami, and now he's calling offense in Detroit pretty much for the first time that I'm aware of. And I think it's wearing on him after 2 weeks already. Just 2 weeks. Because 2 weeks ago, it was fool's gold. You put up 40 points, and everybody's like, oh, he took over play calling duties in Detroit. Now, last week, he couldn't score a point against the Eagles, and he looks older. Like, I'm telling you, it matters. You got to be the CEO of this thing and worry about special teams, defense, personnel. Now I got to call plays. I think it's Ward, Zach Taylor out in Cincinnati, because eventually you got to have to transition to CEO, manager, and let the baby go. And you got to have to let somebody run that. So if he does get another year, I would hope he hires an OC and gets something serious going on in management, and focus on pushing the GM to go get O-line defense. So then I could CEO this thing and get an OC to call the offense for Burrow. Because let's be honest, Jason, you and I can go in there and call offense with Burrow, Chase, Higgins. Like, they got a pretty damn good offensive of talent. Let's just manage this whole thing and get better personnel around them. That's where I think may bite him in the butt if he doesn't return, and that's his demise. He ends up getting fired for that. That'll probably be why. If he does get a second chance, to A.J. McCarron's point, hopefully he hires an OC and CEOs this thing better.
Final thought, JB. I'll let you go after this. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. And, there's been talk this week of, brothers won't go to Mississippi, and Lane needs to go to Gainesville, or he needs to go to Baton Rouge. What do you think Lane Kiffin should do?
I know he met with Florida and LSU yesterday, for a fact, in a place called Hammond, Louisiana. I've been saying he's a Florida Gator. I think he's a Florida Gator. He loves the water. He loves the boats. He loves the ocean. Got history there with his ex and her father, and a lot of things go back to Gainesville. To me, makes more sense to me. Urban Meyer seems to think the same way. I don't see LSU with the political side in place, because I have Braden Fajoko, national champ, LSU national champ, on my show every week. The governor got involved in Louisiana's hiring and firing. They just got a new AD. They have a lot of new things in place. Why would Lane, a guy that's an alpha that wants full autonomy, go into something that's being controlled by the state level? Because it's a state institution ran by a governor who's like, we're going to do it this way. I don't see that. I don't see Lane doing that. I'm going to eliminate LSU for that reason. Now, Ole Miss is the most ready winning team right now because he's in place. They're a playoff team. They're the most ready. Florida is the most attractive, in my opinion, because, Jason, let's be honest. I can go to Gainesville and pull any player I want out of the state of Mississippi to come to Florida. I cannot go to Mississippi and pull any player out of the state of Florida. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's a fact. That's a fact. There's no way you're out recruiting me in Florida if I'm in Florida. But I am the guy in Mississippi to get a few guys out of Florida, but I'm not getting all of them. Florida is a much more you can throw a rock outside of Gainesville and find 10 5-star guys. And you can get 22 5-star guys on offense and defense versus 11 in Oxford. So, like, I think there's a huge disparity there, and plus his lifestyle and everything else. And he doesn't owe the state of Mississippi anything, Jason. His dad, Monty, is not from Mississippi. Lane's not from Mississippi. He has no reason to have some legacy that everyone's talking about in Mississippi. And I don't think you believe, I believe, or anyone believes his last game being coached will be out of Oxford, Mississippi. He's going to leave anyway. Now, does he leave a playoff team because of either A, there is a real ultimatum out there, or B, the schedule just doesn't work? And I'm going to give your audience something that no one else will say. And I said it earlier. I'm not mad at Lane if he leaves, because we defend kids every single day. Player empowerment will cry about these kids having let them go. How many kids have we seen leave bowl teams and playoff teams in the last couple years? We've had kids leaving and entering the portal in a Final Four playoff team. I didn't hear nobody crying about that, but everyone's crying that Lane's going to leave. It's not Lane and the coaches. It's the NCAA and the scheduling. You've allowed it. I wouldn't put no guilt, and I wouldn't allow guilt to be put on me. I'd be fighting back as much as I can. And NCAA, you allowed 3 portals. You allowed the academic schedule to be what it is. You allowed players to leave whenever they wanted. You allowed kids to leave bowl games and playoff games. So now, all of a sudden, I have to be in Florida for signing day in November by Thanksgiving? Nah. How about you bump the playoffs up and not go all the way to the damn Super Bowl? How about you stop the madness with the academic schedule and allow the normal rules to be back in place? Guess what? February signing day, Jason, just like you and I had, and then allow coaches to go get opportunities that we have always had, and then allow players to be held accountable for their commitment instead of their decommitment, which isn't even a real word. Look it up. So at the end of the day, I don't feel sorry for any of them. They're all making money, Jason, but I also am not going to guilt trip a coach for leaving because the NCAA schedule has allowed that not to exist.
JB, thank you. Great job. Enjoy Shedeur Sanders this weekend. I will. We'll see you next time. You guys don't go anywhere because I got one more thing I want to get off my chest. And I'm going to start with this tweet that someone sent me, or not, they didn't send me. I responded to someone else's tweet. Let me call this up here. This is about Shedeur Sanders. The person wasn't tweeting at me, but I used it as a jumping off point to make a larger point. Where is it? Is it not on my Twitter page? Hold it.
It's on screen now.
Yeah, all right. But I know that's my tweet. That's my response. I wanted. When did I? Oh, here we go. Yeah. Bad Dog Sports tweeted out, "I'll never understand why people are rooting for him to fail." And then he shows a picture of Shedeur Sanders in his number 12 Brown jerseys. And I think the inference is that anybody that's rooting for Shedeur Sanders to fail, to play poorly against the Raiders, to flame out as the Browns coach, the inference he's making is you're either racist, evil, or you're some type of Uncle Tom sellout. There's no reason for anybody to root against Shedeur Sanders. And this is a pervasive belief that Shedeur Sanders is unassailable. You can't criticize Shedeur Sanders. If you do, and if you're rooting for him to not have success, you're a bad person. It's just not true. It's just not true. And so I tweeted out, this is not difficult to understand. When you believe someone represents a negative influence on culture, you root against them. Same reason people root against Donald Trump, Joseph Biden, Barack Obama, George Bush. Then for non-political, people root for and against me, Jason Whitlock, based on their worldview. For some, Shedeur Sanders represents entitlement, false victimhood, radical materialism, racial idolatry. For others, Shedeur represents black empowerment, hip-hop culture, a thorn in the side of perceived white bigotry, etc. We all root for and against things. It's not remotely difficult to understand. So we're headed into this NFL weekend, football weekend, and there will be people that will take to social media, and if Shedeur Sanders plays poorly, they're going to tweet about it with glee. I'll be one of those people. And there will be people on social media that will infer, look at what a terrible person Jason Whitlock is. He's a coon. He's an Uncle Tom. How dare he root against Shedeur Sanders? And then if you're white, you'll be called a racist and blah, blah. And I'm listening to this and watching this play out, and this has been playing out for years. They're like, if you happen to root against someone that black leftists believe is their hero, you can't root against them or you're a bad person. And this goes against human nature. This goes against just common sense. It's like, do I want Shedeur Sanders to flop on Sunday? Absolutely. I'm not ashamed of that. I want him to flop because I think his success would send a horrible message to young kids that arrogance, radical materialism, bravado, entitlement, playing the victim is all a good thing. I don't want young people to think that, hey, I got to dress up like a rapper. I have to make rap songs. I have to buy big gold chains. That all of this is a positive. I have to talk in a way that makes me sound ghetto, even though I've never once seen the ghetto. I am Deion Sanders' son. I grew up in great wealth and great affluence. I'm actually privileged because my father was a multimillionaire and because my father had the availability to coach me all along the way. I root against Shedeur Sanders unapologetically because his success would send a bad statement about what it takes to be successful, not only in this world, but in sports, or not only in sports, but in the world. People do this all the time. People root against Donald Trump daily. He's the president of the United States, but they don't like the way Donald Trump operates, comports himself, talks, his arrogance, and so they root against him. And it's not because they're racist. It's because they don't like the way he carries himself. And he has a far more important job than Shedeur Sanders. He's actually been elected to represent all of us. And what he does has great consequence for all of us. But people are allowed to root against Donald Trump. People are allowed to root against me. I don't take offense to it. I understand that people disagree with my approach to sports media. I happen to think they're wrong. I tend to prioritize objectivity and fairness above racial idolatry and unfairness. But some people disagree and think that, hey, Whitlock's doing everything wrong and him being successful would send a terrible message. My skin is black. I've been black my entire life. I like my black skin. But I'm not black enough for certain people because I don't share their political worldview or non-biblical worldview. And so they root against me. And that's okay. And so it is okay for those of us that want to spend our weekend rooting against Shedeur Sanders. It's perfectly okay. It's appropriate. This is what sports fans have done for years. I was an Indiana Pacer fan. I rooted against Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan retired, I quit rooting against him, and I started celebrating him and his success. But as long as he was playing for the Chicago Bulls and stood in the way of what I wanted to happen, Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers to win a championship, I rooted against Michael Jordan. And so as long as Shedeur Sanders stands in opposition to what I think is important in sports, humility, being a great teammate, carrying yourself and promoting things that would be uplifting and beneficial to young people, I'm going to root against Shedeur Sanders. If he decides to pivot, tones down his arrogance, tones down his radical materialism, then I'll jump on board with Shedeur. But you can catch me Sunday around 7 p.m. live on this network, on this channel, on this YouTube page. We'll be discussing what happens with Shedeur Sanders in the Browns-Raiders game. Come join me. I might be eating crow. I might have to take an L on Shedeur may play well, and I may have to say, hey, Shedeur played better than I thought. You will not hear me pivoting, though. Shedeur right now, in my view, from my worldview, he's not a force for good. He sends kids a bad message, sets a horrible example for them. He leads way too much with his wealth and his arrogance and his bravado. There you go. All right, thank you, and we will see you Sunday night. You'll see me on the Harmony channel in about 10 minutes.